giving consumers a financial edge, providing economic tools designed for you to win. With the Empirenomics business guru Al Mills and the credit lady gem dropper herself, Monique Macklin.
Hello, and welcome to Wake Up and Win with Al Mills and Monique Macklin. My name is Monique Macklin, and I'm known in the industry as the Credit Lady.
Hey, and I'm Al Mills, aka the Prophetic Financier, the world's #1 socioeconomic mobility mastermind.
All right, so we have created a safe space that's designed to enlighten, empower, and edify people to their next level of economic success. On this platform, we do that by having conversations that require you to examine your current situation and make changes as needed to get you to your next level, your next desired level of thinking better, banking better, and leveraging better. Now, on today's show, we will be discussing financial intelligence versus financial literacy. So Al, let's jump right in. What is the difference between the two?
All right, are we ready to mash some toast today?
Yeah, because everybody, all they talk about is, we're going to teach you about financial literacy.
Financial literacy, financial intelligence. Yes, let's get right into it. So there's a distinct distinction between the two. Let's talk about literacy first. In our last conversation, we talked about the whole educational system is based on literacy. And if you're the adjective, the person of that, you are educated. You are literate. And again, to be literate in literacy, you are educated, instructed, or having knowledge of letters and alphanumeric symbols. That would be the definition of one who has literacy. And it comes from the early 15th century word, which is literus, which is basically the Greek word for literacy, which means to be learned, educated, and to know letters. So in our modern day time, when you go to school, from grammar school, college, you are becoming literate on alphanumeric symbols.
You're taught to memorize.
So you're meant to memorize and on sight. You see things on sight and memorize. And so when we talk about financial literacy now, that means you have been taught or educated or instructed how to identify financial constructs based on alphanumeric symbols. So here's an example of financial literacy. You attain a financial advisor, or you're attaining a loan broker. Let's use the loan broker because I think that's more of an applicational process for most people. Let's say you're looking to buy a home. And when buying that home, your loan broker tells you that they can get you an interest rate of 4%. But now you will say, okay, from financial literacy, I have a 4% interest rate. But if you don't know how to evaluate the true velocity of that payment, you would know that you're paying more than 4%. So there's the true cost of the loan, and that's something that we would call as loan constant. Right. So a person's going to gloat, though, in financial literacy, they're going to gloat about having that said interest rate. Now, again, I want to advocate, for my financial advisors, for my legal team. We're not offering financial or tax information. We're purely sharing information for educational purposes, and in some cases, even for entertainment purposes. So I want to always say that you need to trust but verify all the information that we are sharing with you on this particular show. So back to my conversation in reference to the 4%. Let's say a person borrowed $100,000, right? And the interest rate was 4%. For those of you following along, and you paid for 30 years, you're going to have a payment. You're going to have a payment of, give or take, a certain amount, right? But you're thinking your note rate is 4%.
Correct.
And then when you realize your loan constant is greater, the total cost of the loan, how do you determine the loan constant? You take the actual annual payments of a loan, and you then in turn divide it by the original loan amount, and that's going to give you the loan constant. Does that make sense?
It does.
And that's how we would be able
to get the true cost of
to
the
get
loan.
the true cost of the loan. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, financial intelligence would have said, you would have known that. You would have known what a loan constant is in reference to that.
Right. So you won't be surprised to know that I'm paying actually 8% as opposed to 4% on this loan.
Exactly. You would know that immediately in reference to that. But I like to teach and telling stories. So here's something between financial literacy and financial intelligence. Okay. I had a mentee that was following the principles of restoring their credit profile. Okay. And they were under the literacy that you have to pay your bills on time. You don't want any blemishes on your credit report, and you're going to be a slave to Master Visa or American Express. Okay. And they had reached a point where they had personally guaranteed cards for their business, but the business was not producing revenue, and so they didn't have the ability to purchase or to pay the said credit card. My recommendation would be, first of all, know that any credit can be repaired, replenished, and rebuilt, so it's not a problem. But why don't you? But why don't you use a financial tool that that those who are in business or who have financial intelligence would actually utilize, which is filing bankruptcy. Right. Okay. Now, in that, they became very much disgruntled and said, "No, I'd rather just pay off the credit cards." Now, the moment that you went delinquent on those credit cards, they close the account, but they still want you to make payments. Correct. Exactly. So now, from a literacy perspective, you want to still make the payments, but the account is closed. It's closed, so it's no benefit to you. It's no benefit to you credit-wise, but yet the literacy says that you need to continue paying that said account until you pay off the balance. The conditioning. Yes. Whereas with the literacy, bankruptcy is a financial tool used by the financially intelligent to discharge negative debt, relieving them from a personal liability or obligation. But because of the conditioning, though, they felt as though that was injurious of their personal credit, and they became disgruntled when they couldn't do it. And the stigma on their reputation. And the reputation, I'm going to have a blemish on my credit report for X amount of years. Yeah. When we was trying to share the fact that all those things can be suppressed and removed, and you can be back in the credit game within 6 months or less. Right? So there's another example of intelligence. So the money that you would have been paying down on a closed out credit card, you can then establish new credit through secured credit cards, opening accounts with the same money that you would have used to pay down a closed account. Because once you pay it down or pay it off, you can't use it again. You still can't use it. So right. It's counterproductive. Absolutely. And so that was the example, but that person, felt as though that was ill-advised and felt maybe they were injured or they weren't being honorable, and then they're now subjugated to being a debt slave. Correct. Now, we're not advocating that honoring your debts, but we're saying that if it comes a situation, like in this particular person's situation, the business was not producing revenue. Right. And so where was the company supposed to find the money to pay those credit cards? Exactly. So now, in that instance, you're now tapping into your family's money. Correct. To pay a debt that you can't utilize. Correct. But so now the cards are closed, they begin to charge off, and now it reports on your credit report because a business credit card reports only in a negative or default situation. Now your personal cards are subject to being terminated, reduced in limits and the like. And this is when financial hardships start to hit home, when you have one cure-all for that. That is true. Knowing this, you can just humble yourself, use the financial tool, and know that it's not the walk of shame, and that this is a tool that's been used by the elite from the beginning of the financial times. Yeah. I mean, even our former president. I was just thinking, I said, he's filed bankruptcy like 7 times or something. And he's still a billionaire, and there's no walk of shame.
Exactly.
The true walk of shame is turning yourself into servitude
Yeah.
to pay something that's not benefiting your higher purpose and energy. Again, it comes back to holistic.
Oh, I was going to say
holistic accounting once again, right?
Yeah, you got to make yourself whole first.
Make yourself whole. But then again, these are some of the injustices that are happening for those who are just literate.
That's
and over
true.
time, that party will realize the intelligence that was being shared with them was sound. But in the initial part, you're all in your feelings, you're all in your social conditioning, and you're all in your financial literacy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it has to deal with the shame of it all. But what are you ashamed of? Why do people have to know your business outside of your household? No one really needs to know.
Exactly. And that's another thing. That's another question. Your credit report and your taxes is a private situation. Once again, the former president proved that you didn't have to procure your taxes for no one.
That's true. That is so true.
Again, that's operating in financial intelligence, where you have, again, now what is the definition of financial intelligence versus literacy? Intelligence is using the highest faculty of your mind to comprehend a general truth. And the operative word is general truth.
Correct.
You have to know the truth of a thing. And the Bible says that in all thy getting, get an overstanding, or an understanding. Overstanding. So that means you need to comprehend the general truth of a thing before you get involved with it.
This is true.
So that is where, if you are close to someone, I'm always come back to the law of money and distance. If you are connected to someone who's close to wealth, aka financial intelligence, you would have access to this information to make an informed decision. So you will be informed to be informed.
Right.
Financial literacy, financial intelligence.
So with literacy, we're just operating based on what we see or what we've been told. Exactly. And intelligence is now using your higher faculties to amass to amass more.
Amass more. But to comprehend a general truth.
Yes.
So you have to first be seeking truth.
So with literacy, they're keeping us. It's keeping us bound.
Yes, keeping us bound.
It's keeping us bound. So all these people, the gurus out here telling us, they're going to teach us about financial literacy. They're never going to really teach us the real truth.
That is correct.
They're never going to teach us how to go beyond what, to that next level. They're just going to give us enough to, I guess, pacify us and to say, oh, okay, well, I made $1,000 here. Where that, you invested $1,000 and maybe made 500 or 1,000, but you probably could have invested 5,000 and made 50,000. It just, it's really on what the level of knowledge that's being fed to you.
Correct. So back to that example we gave of the $100,000 at 4% interest rate for 30 years. You think that your note rate, you were taught that the note rate is what you're paying back.
Correct.
No one ever taught you how to comprehend the general truth that there's something called the loan constant, which is the true cost of capital. But in this example, the note rate is 4%, but you're actually paying it back at 5.73%.
Okay. That's the true rate. Godly. So when a person gets when their credit isn't so great and they go to get a vehicle and they get a 19.9.
Ooh, let's do that. Let's see what that looks like. Let's just say 19.99%. And you're going to pay it back over 5 years. That's what most car loans are, 5 years.
Let's say $35,000. Let's say $35,000.
A $35,000 loan.
Yeah.
Ooh, they're in trouble. Let's see, $35,000. Wow, you're looking at a $927 a month monthly payment.
Yeah.
But your loan constant is 31.8%.
What?
So your payment, your velocity and how you pay back this information is 31.8%. Just round up 32%.
At $900 a month.
That is correct. So now your note rate, you thinking, oh, I'm going to get this car regardless. It's 19.99%. I'm going to pay it off in 5 years. But your actual rate or velocity of paying it back is 31.8%, 32%.
Ooh, that is the epitome of legal loan sharking.
Right? And let's imagine, of that $927.09 payment, $583 goes to interest. Only $344 is paid toward principal.
Towards your principal. So in 3 years, I decide I don't want this vehicle anymore. I want to go trade it in.
Ooh, 3 years later? Oh, wow. 3 years later, that's 36 months in. You still have a balance of $18,000
rolled into the next loan.
Right. Rolled
on into the next loan. And if you haven't repaired your credit problem, you're going to do it again. You're going to do it again and or be denied because your debt to income is going to look real crazy. But it's, oh God, that's horrible. 31.
So there's financial intelligence at its best. You need to understand what is the true cost of money.
Yeah.
Before you make a decision. They told you on the front end what it was an interest rate, but the true cost of it is different. That's called Dutch interest, by the way.
Okay, wow. I've always told my clients when it came to, because some people will get into credit repair and they'll say, well, a month later or two, they're like, well, I got to get a car. And of course, credit repair isn't complete at that time. And I understand that people have to have a vehicle. So of course, they're going to wind up in this kind of a situation, but they need a vehicle. So there's nothing that they can do because they have to get to work, right? So
that's correct.
It's the way the system is set up, boy, it just really just keeps people so bound. And it's like nothing that you can do, especially if you don't have emergency money saved or anything. You can just go get something for cash and hold out for a while. That can put people 31%.
Yeah, that's the true cost.
That's the true cost of money. And from what you've taught me, no one should be purchasing depreciating assets under their name.
That is correct.
Right.
Anything that's depreciating, you lease. Anything that stays the same or appreciates, you purchase.
Okay.
So let's look at that. If it's a vehicle, you would lease a Mercedes.
Correct.
But you'd purchase a Rolls Royce.
Gotcha. Because a
Rolls Royce will appreciate over time as it becomes more vintage. A mass-produced Mercedes will not appreciate; it depreciate because it's mass-produced.
Right.
Whereas Rolls Royce are not mass-produced; they're custom purchases.
And also, you're purchasing, you should be purchasing not in your name.
Absolutely not.
Or leasing.
Correct. Absolutely not.
Okay.
You should never do anything in your natural person's name.
Okay.
Never. Ever.
See, that's a bit of financial intelligence people don't know.
Exactly. Once again, we're showing the difference between literacy. Literacy is you want to buy a car, you take a loan, and you're only concerned about your down payment and your monthly payment, but you're not considering the true cost of the purchase.
Yeah. And I always tell people that too. I said a sales rep in the car dealership knows if you have good credit or not when you walk in the door, because you're more concerned about what your monthly payment is going to be, not your interest rate.
That is correct. And so one of the tips I like for everyone to take away from today is when buying a car, never put money down. Buy it with no money down. Just pay the taxes and the tags. And that money that you would have paid down in the form of a down payment, make that payment as your first payment towards your credit. Because
towards your monthly payment.
Towards your monthly payment, which will reflect. So here's an example. Back to that $35,000 loan. You were going to put down 10%, $3,500. Take that $3,500 and make your first payment. That shows the creditors that on that loan for $35,000, you just put down $3,500, and that shows your principal balance dropped by a certain amount. That's going to help your credit score.
So how does that work? Because when you're at the dealership, they say, well, we can't do this deal unless you put down $5,000 or something like that.
They say that to you, but no one's going to let you walk out of there.
Even if your credit is jacked up?
Even if your credit is jacked up.
Interesting.
The car is a collateral. Don't forget that.
Well, that's true. They can always come back and get it.
The car is a
so
collateral.
When you're having that conversation, you should be saying, instead of me making this down payment, let me just use this money as my first payment towards this loan.
Towards the loan. Because here's the reality. Most of the time, the down payment that you're making doesn't even go towards the purchase price of the car. You just purchased the warranty.
Oh.
They normally throw in that warranty and say the lender needs you to have an extended warranty.
Extended warranty.
You just paid $3,500 for the warranty.
Oh, well, they make it seem like the lender won't extend you the credit,
right?
The loan, unless you make that down payment.
Let me ask you this question: Have you, in buying a car, has the loan officer or loan manager in the auto dealership ever turned his screen around and showed you the offers that are being made by the lenders that he shopped your credit around for?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Did you ever get a truth in lending statement prior to purchasing?
No.
To that effect? No.
No.
Okay, I'm just pointing out things to look for.
Okay. No, that makes sense. But no one has ever done that.
Now, in this same example, I have shown someone before we walked into a dealership and purchased a car with no money down. Factual.
Okay.
In the company
well, I know when you have good credit, most of the time you can do that. I always felt when someone's credit wasn't that great, they were obligated to put some skin in the game.
In the corporate name.
Oh, under the corporation name.
Walked into an Acura dealership.
Yeah.
Purchased the Acura MDX with no money down.
Yeah.
Fully loaded.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not reporting on the personal credit report.
Yeah, exactly. I have clients that have done that. So yeah, it's a much better process. I can tell you that. It's a much better process when you're using.
And the individual is utilizing the vehicle for business.
Yep.
But it's not personally liable.
Makes a whole lot more sense.
And the lease, and then with the properly structured lease, you convert the lease into a purchase if that's something you want to do at the end of the lease,
right?
And get all the credit for the payments being made. And I believe to this day they're still operating that vehicle.
Nice.
Financial intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. But most of us, because I'm like a every 3 year kind of buying a new car kind of person, so leasing makes sense. Because I don't, after about 2 or 3 years, I'm kind of over it, the car.
Point well taken.
So, and a lot of people are like that too, but it seems like, you're forever in a debt. You know what I mean? It just seems like you never get rid of that debt. So that's why I always thought, so when you said it's smarter to do the lease as opposed to the purchasing, I'm just like, it's like you're never getting rid of that debt.
And there's certain companies and certain dealerships that you could go to that honor and are favoring leases in the corporate name. So we can definitively talk about that in maybe a future show. Okay. How to purchase a car using your entity as opposed to your personal name.
Okay.
That's something that we can think about. But I will say this, I will caution you.
Okay.
This journey of financial intelligence does require some intestinal fortitude. So if you don't have a belly for negotiations and going and weathering storms, it may not be for you. But then again, it's so much better than you functioning in literacy and being a debt slave.
Correct. That makes sense. So in the takeaway, when it comes to, well, again, how does one become more financially intelligent?
I'm going to always say, find a mentor. Surround yourself with those who have or possess financial intelligence. Now, here's something you have to understand. In the beginning, you're operating from literacy versus intelligence, and it may not make sense to you. You may think that the person's giving you ill advice, but not until you can comprehend the general truth will you be set free from that conditioning.
I mean, just the example of learning what a loan constant is should awaken a whole lot of people to
or the bankruptcy example.
Example.
If the credit cards go into default, why would you continue paying on cards that you can't reuse the funds? That's why they call it a revolving credit account.
Yeah.
If it's no longer revolving, it's obsolete to you.
Exactly.
Take that good money and put it into something new than behind something bad. That's just intelligent.
That is true.
But again, when you get emotional and
attachment
to that fictitious 3-digit score, you let that dictate your functionality.
Right. People look at their credit score, because I have clients say, I look at my score every day. And I'm like, wow. but they get so fixated and infatuated with just keeping that score above those, 700s.
Yes.
Because they that's all they, especially when they're coming from the 4s and the 5s. They're really, honed in on that credit score. And
I got a 700. I got
a and they like saying it.
Yeah.
Last time I looked at my score, it was 762. That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. But is it fundable? Do you have a fundable score?
That's it. You have to start learning how to do other things with that credit score, because even when connecting with you, it's the first time I heard that when credit was created, it was created with the intent of people of it being an asset and not a liability.
That is correct.
So, and most of us, of course, are using credit as a liability
as opposed to leveraging
it for our own to make ourselves whole.
Absolutely. We have to stay in our holistic accounting.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I know one time we had a conversation on the whole literacy thing, and it was deep on what literacy actually really is, but in a way it seems like the world is just really trying to keep us all dumbed down for their benefit.
Well, like Nelson Rockefeller said, the world has enough thinkers, we just need workers. And so the whole institution of education and financial institutions are only training up educated slaves.
Correct.
Literacy
slaves. Yep.
It's a hard reality, but it's a fact.
And that's the reason why it's so mind-boggling as to why only 1-2% of the population is actually wealthy, right?
That's correct.
And that's kind of that's a very big number. The difference is such a huge number, but it makes it seem, I guess, the way the news and everything makes it seem, it's like the billionaires, the wealthy, are just greedy and they're hoarding and they're but they've learned
the principles,
the
general truths on how this works.
Exactly, where the rest of us are just trying to figure out how to get from one check to the next with our degrees.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's you have to start thinking better.
Absolutely.
Thinking better. What is it? Yeah, thinking better, bank better, and leverage better.
That's it, all day long.
That is the key. That is the key. So, so in closing, what would you want to say? You just want people to find someone that is operating on that same frequency of financial intelligence.
Absolutely.
You could always reach out to us for a meeting. You can always DM us on the at Wake Up and Win Show on Instagram, and we'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you on how to get you to that level, see where you're at currently, and how to guide you to that next level of building wealth. Even starting where you're at, learning how to turn your income into assets.
That's correct. Income into assets, and really uncover. One of the things that will happen on that discovery call is we will help you unlock your past to understand your current situation, so that you can uncover your future, which will help you really create that lifestyle compliant empire that you so richly desire. Correct.
So yeah, this has been I love talking about this topic. So this has been really enlightening. Even just learning about 31% on a 19% interest rate.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that was shocking when people like, what?
And there's so many people that get, especially now, it's tax season, right? Mm-hmm. So people, they need a car. They're going to go and put $5,000 down on what year we're in, 22. They're going to go get a 2017 vehicle. And they're going to put they got back 10. They're going to put $5,000 on a car and go buy a big screen TV with the rest. And, nothing is going to come out of it for the year.
That's right.
So right now we want people to just start, understanding how money actually works. We've been fed a lot of false information, and we are just here for people to start, to learn how to make themselves whole again.
Make yourself whole. Become holistic in nature.
Yes.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If you really want to transform your life, get with us so that we can assist you in taking the next step.
Yeah.
There's one thing of gathering information, but until you apply it in real life
That's
application, you're never going to become knowledgeable.
That is
so
true.
So do not deceive yourself and believe that coming to Wake Up and Win show, that getting this information, you're getting knowledge. No, knowledge only happens when you apply it.
When you apply it. And if you don't know how to apply it, guess what? You're never going to be made whole.
So
you're still going to be operating literacy.
That's right. So reach out to us.
Yeah.
Let us create a plan, a pathway, and a process to help you get there.
Correct. Well, Al, as always, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. We'll be talking about short sale no-nos, because things are going to start to shift real soon. There's going to be a lot of short sales coming on the market.
Absolutely.
So we want to, for those who are in the real estate, who own real estate, we want to, take you down that path on what the no-nos are when it comes to your short sale.
Awesome. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you real soon.
Okay. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Wake Up and Win with Al Mills and Monique Macklin. We hope you've been enlightened by today's message. Please subscribe to our podcast and share with your friends on your social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, follow us on Instagram at Wake Up and Win Show.